Well, just going on from that, you say in your Spectator piece, quote, "It is tragic that rather than having a bet each way on nuclear and renewables, the Albanese government is prepared to experiment with people's lives and livelihoods," unquote. Most people who support Albanese's plan would say that not reducing emissions is riskier. What would you say to that?
Well, I mean, the simple choice with nuclear is that it will help in achieving that target as well. And this is why I say, like, I don't tend to get too focused in my political science studies of policy around the normative aspects, because this is what we're trying to achieve. It's a global thing. It's happening anyway. Nuclear can be part of that mix, whereas at the moment we're not even allowed that to happen. And I think the problem is that if the renewables does fail, then where do we go? We've lost skills, we've lost the industry, we've created institutions that are hard to turn back. And if we look at what's happening in Germany in particular, they're knocking down wind farms to access coal mines. France is doing pretty okay. Canada's going back to nuclear, is investing in SMRs. So, elsewhere, these experiments have not worked. And if we replicate those failed results here, then we're going to be impacting people's lives. And it just doesn't make sense that we're willing to risk all of this on a single national solution. But again, we've seen that it's a bit of an Australian policy approach, that we try and get a single national solution that's going to solve all our problems and then wonder why it cost too much and it didn't happen. And, after an election, that policy ended and we had to start all over again.
Now, quickly before you go, I just want to ask you a question about Victoria, because Victorian voters will be able to pass judgment on all this green ideology soon. Victorian Premier Dan Andrews is campaigning on a promise to renationalise the energy grid and build windmills off the coast of Gippsland. Quickly before you go, Michael, is he mad, and will Victorians go for it?
Look, I mean, that's up to Victorians. It's one of the great things about living in a federation. And I must say, I'm glad I don't live in Victoria. But what concerns me is that renationalising will take away from our skills and our market base. It will take us back to the bad old days of Australian sort of utilities policy. And what worries me too is that there's a potential then for increased unionisation, industry super funds coming in, and we've just seen Labor overturn the coalition's transparency rules around political donations through super funds. So, to me, it kind of looks like it's a bit self-serving. It's a way to re-establish a sort of Labor industry in Victoria. And of course, we're going to see wages go up in that space and so on, which won't necessarily bring power prices down. So it just doesn't make sense with all of our current thinking around the political economy, that renationalising the energy grid is going to produce the savings that they're talking about without it costing in other areas of Victoria's economy. So I'd be quite concerned if I was a Victorian voter at this stage.
Yeah, well, I hope a majority of Victorian voters agree with you, Michael. Michael de Percy, thanks so much for your time.